Hello everybody. Thought I'd come out, take a seat in the boat and go over how I'm going to fish for spring Chinook at the start of the season here. We'll be starting here in just a few more days. Here on the lower Columbia, the temperature's like really low. It's down in the 30s still, 39 and 40. And usually when the temperature is that low, I'll start out fishing with Kwikfish on the hook with my boat anchored, and I'll go over the setup, how I set up my rod and reel for fishing for spring Chinook, fall Chinook, even coho, if they have an outgoing tide, and it's pretty good. So to start with, I'm using a Guide Select Classic 1062H, the 15 to 30 pound test on that. And the 1062H seems to be like the perfect all-around rod. You can use that for using this 10.5 footer. You can use it for using your 360. You can use it for using your triangle flashers when you're out trolling, and it works excellent for Kwikfish rod at the same time. So 1062H, and for the reel, you always want to have a line counter. That way you can duplicate. You catch a fish somewhere, you know how far it was behind your boat, you know how deep it was, you can go right back to the same spot and do it again. That, and it just helps you know where to put your line. I'll get to that in a little bit as I'm talking about sinkers and the scope of the line to Kwikfish. But line counter reel, very important. And I fill the reel with 65 pound test tough line of braided line. You can get away with 40, 50, 60, or even more, but normally I use a 65. That way I know whatever fish, if it's a fish and it swims in the Columbia River, this is not going to break 65 pound test. I've brought in 15-foot logs off the bottom with 15 pound or 60 pound tests. I haven't met a sturgeon yet that I couldn't bring in on 65 pound test, other than up at the Bonneville, below Bonneville. But 65 pound test, 1062, line counter reel. It don't matter if it's a Kuma, Daiwa, Shimano, it doesn't matter. Even Ambassadors come out with a new line counter reel. Okay, that's the rod and the reel. Now to get down to the business end here. First thing I'm going to do, I'm going to slide a bead up my line. That bead is to protect my top eye in case somebody gets all crazy and doesn't pay attention and they go to reel up. I don't want them reeling a slider or a bead chain up through my top eye and break out the ceramic. So most people use an 8mm bead right there. 8 mil is a good place to start. Personally, on fish field products on the internet, you can order a rubber one. I think they're called the Hucky Pucky. Not very expensive. There's like 6 in a little pack. But these are soft rubber. And what that does is keep everything from getting reeled through my top eye on my rod and break my ceramic. Okay, from the bead, you go to a slider. And that slider is so that your sinker can slide up and down the line, so you don't, if you get your sinker stuck in the net when you're reeling it in, that fish still can swim around and you're going to still get that fish even if that sinker falls through the net. And from that, I'll have a dual lock snap from the slider, and from there 28 inches of 15 pound test line. Of course a train would be coming. At the end of the 15 pound test, another dual lock, and that's to snap to the sinker. Okay, there's your slider, your dropper. Next, tie a 6 bead chain. Reason being because there's a lot of grass and weeds and stuff floating down the river. You don't want to get your swivel bound up to your leader Because what will happen sometimes, your two hooks will get fouled together on your Kwikfish. It'll come back spinning like a top, and you'll twist this main line all up. If you don't have a line lock slider. The line lock slider is, there's a little groove right there, and it fits right over the end of that loop for your bead chain. What that does, no matter how much you get twisted up with your Kwikfish on, or whatever you're fishing with, could be a flasher or either, whatever it is, no matter how much it twists up, as long as you have a line lock slider there, you're not going to twist up and ruin your braided main line. So bead, slider, bead chain, and then 5 foot, a 40-pound test. I use Maxima Ultra Green. 5 foot leader that goes to another dual lock that goes to your Kwikfish. Just like that. Most people, when you buy a Kwikfish, it'll have a dual lock on the front of it. Most people just take a second one tied to their leader and they go right through that dual lock, so it gives them more movement, more freedom of movement. Personally, I take that dual lock out and I replace it with a number 3 Danielson split ring. Reason being, that dual lock's a half a circle, horseshoe shaped, half circle. That split ring is a full, complete circle. That actually gives you more range of motion than 2 dual locks ever did. I mean, there's just no stopping that. And I'll go over how to rig a Kwikfish in another video. We completely redo those Kwikfish. We don't fish them like they come out of the package. But you never know. Sometimes you might have one come right out of a package. It'll be your best killer Kwikfish you have. So you always want to fish it the way it comes pre-rigged to start with, before you ever go missing with your plugs, with the eyes or the hooks or changing hooks or anything. Always want to fish them how they come out of the package first. So now I'll get back. I said I'd get back to the 28-inch leader and why I fish a 28-inch leader or dropper. Okay, this dropper's 28 inches. It sits down here on the bottom. Your leader is 5 foot. Just from experience, I know that if I cast, and this is where your line counter is important when you get to figure these things out, I cast out 72 feet on my line counter with that 28-inch dropper and that 5 foot leader. When I pull my line tight, so I have all the slack out of my line, that leader's sitting here on the bottom, the sinker is sitting there on the bottom, and the scope that I have at 72 feet, my Kwikfish is right off the bottom about 6 to 8 inches. That's right down there where you want to get them. Reason being, in the spring and early fall, when the water's still cold, them fish during the outgoing tide, they're going to be belly down all the way in the sand. So you want to get just as close to that bottom as you possibly can. If you're more than a foot off the bottom, you're already out of the zone. Especially on spring Chinook. They're dragging belly. Nope, that's it, folks.